Elmer, Advanced Neurospinal Solutions, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that are faced in the music industry, people who are involved in music at several different levels, whether it's their vocal artists or whether they're playing different instruments. All of those things carry with it extreme circuitry, extreme brain circuitry in order to accomplish those things. And the first thing I want to talk about is, no matter what it is you do, you need to understand that the more you do it, the better you get. Now, you already knew that, but also the more you do it, the more self-limiting it becomes. And I experienced this myself when I was a college shot, disc, and javelin thrower. And the more I threw, the more efficient I got. And then after a while, I started getting worse. And what we found was I was so efficient in one direction, I wound up, in fact, my shoulder, which would normally be in a position like that, you can see this? Mm-hmm. Okay. Normally be in a position like this, had literally become like this. So when I came back to throw, whether it was shot, disc, or javelin, I didn't come all the way back anymore. I didn't have the flexibility anymore. I had no idea that would be an issue for me. I always ran in a certain direction in a certain way, and that I didn't realize that created neuroplasticity that would eventually cause my body to be inhibited from being able to do what it used to do, especially at the level. And if I knew what I knew today, if I had to be a thrower today, I would do several things. One, I would throw on the other arm. Two, if I threw 1,000 times with this arm, I'd throw 1,000 times with this arm. But it gets even more aggressive that I would throw backwards 1,000 times, and I would throw backwards 1,000 times. That way I would retain and maintain that youthful positioning, mechanical advantage, and structural strength. But then also the key to the strength of my arm forward is my arm backwards. As it gets weaker and weaker, literally the muscles that are keeping my arm from flying off are back there. When they start to become too weak to handle it, I start getting injured. And that's what happened. And so my career, which was looking really good, started to get yucky after a while. And so understand that a lot of the things you do, even as you're walking and as you're moving, everything tends to be forward, which is actually the system you had when you came out of your mom, right? That baby, we call it in neuroscience, we call it the anterior compartment, but it's all flexors, and we were forward. We're going back to that. In order to become an adult, you learn to stand tall in a tall posture, but you developed all the stuff that's in the back. Well, that developed your adult brain. And as we start to lose that adult brain, as we start to come into this posture, we start to act like kids. You know that cantankerous old coot, the guy that you can't take anywhere, right? And you tell him to stop acting like a child. Well, he is acting like a child. And so he needs to be working on that adult brain from a positive postural point of view, getting him to start walking backwards. I love, many of my patients are walking backwards on the treadmills here at the office. And we don't even turn them on. They're actually pushing them like putting your butt against a car and pushing it, right? They're walking backwards like that. And it's causing them to neuroplastically be able to stand up better and building that brain that they're losing. And that. Now, from a basic music point of view, the things that we're interested in is any kind of instrument is usually going to be one-sided. And you say, no, not like drums. Drums is both sides. No, they're still one-sided. Even though you got the sticks in both hands, the way you're using the sticks on one side is different than the way you're using the sticks on the other. It's a stick on the other side, right? When you understand that the cerebellum in the back of your brain here operates best with circles. You turn it on with circles, whether it's circles, whether it's figure eights, and this is a sophisticated movement. This is a more sophisticated movement. We can go forward and backwards, right? And then there's very sophisticated, which is a figure eight, vertical, and we can go backwards too with it, okay? All of those things turn on the cerebellum. Kind of looks like the right hand of the drummer, doesn't it? Okay? But if you want to turn off the cerebellum, you do linear movements. Linear movements in any plane or any angle are going to turn it off. Looks like the left hand of the drummer, right? So he's turning it on and turning it off, turning the other one off at the same time, which is very radical. It's very harsh on that system. And no wonder drummers tend to get dystonia, where they can't move in a certain way. That's because their brain has lost the capacity to go in a certain direction, and it starts to lose its ability to know where the world is on that side, to know where their body is on that side, because we're not moving it at all because it's locked into place. And so dystonia, which is very, very interesting, is 4 basic problems, but in music, it tends to be one of those things that happens more often than not. When you look at other professions, much less. It happens much less in their professions. So one of the things we do, besides working with the patient to restore all these different aspects of their nervous system, and that I have them cross-trained by changing the drums in the opposite way. So now they're doing this with the left hand and this with the right hand. And at first it is horrible, and we expect it to be. But over time, they're going to unwind that whole system and cause the circuitry to work more evenly and more balanced on both sides. Then you can go back to doing some of your old-time drumming, okay? Also, the same thing happens with guitar or the fiddle or other instruments that require one side. The flute is another common one. And so and then the violin, it gets even worse because I'm already locking myself into a very difficult position. And so once I've created that thing, it's nearly impossible to get it out, especially in our traditional methods of therapies. Normally we're going to talk about things like Botox and other medications, which don't deal with the real problems that the patient is dealing with. There are four problems that are happening in dystonia itself. One is your nervous system doesn't know how to tell the muscles to shut up, okay? And that's from the basal ganglia. Number 2, it doesn't know how to tell where things are in space in that area that I can't go anymore. Number 3, it doesn't know where it is in space. That part of the body is in space. And number 4, the integrator, which is the computer, can't control properly, in the old way of doing it, the spinal cord and the brain integrative system, which is the computer. And so we have to put all of that stuff back together again. The visual system doesn't work the way it's supposed to. So if I look at something and I'm responding to it, that response is reflexive, that system is not working. So one of the things we often do is we'll put a laser pointer on their head and practice targets and practice following patterns, and that forcing the nervous system to have to relearn. And we do that at the same time that we're working with the cerebellum and with optokinetics, and we're working with bone conductor headphones to cause the cerebellum to get the juice where it needs it at that time to help, which causes it to learn faster. In vocalization, when you think of things like singing, the system is the vocal system is the most refined movement system in your body. It is the most difficult thing that you do from a refinement point of view. Walking is the most difficult from a systems point of view. And so let's look at the vocal system like a flute and a flute player. You've got the flute, that's the thing that makes the sound when you ask it to do it, right? And that flute is your brainstem, and it tells the muscles and the rest of the system to do the breathing properly and all that, and then to cause those muscles to be very refined in their response. Whereas the player, what am I gonna sing, what am I gonna say, is the brain itself. And that brain also has a difficult challenge. And so when we're working with vocal professionals, we're working to get the brainstem to function so that it's powerful and strong. We're getting the integrators in the brain and cerebellum. An example of this is Tony Bennett. Tony Bennett has an old voice sound. Now, I don't even know if he might be passed on, I don't know. But I never could stand his voice because it sounded old. No matter what he sang, no matter when he sang, it sounded old. It's got that old raspy sound, ratchety sound. It didn't sound really good compared to other singers and that. So what do we have to do? We have to not only get those the flute part of that brainstem to function, we got to get the cerebellum juiced to the point where it gives the refinement of activity so that it gives that crisp, crystal clear and young sound to it and that. And so we have ways to work with the brainstem, to work with the brain, to work with the cerebellum to cause that to come up. I have had many professional singers that I've taken care of, and they often will, the regular patients, they're coming and see me and that, so that their vocal quality can improve, but they definitely always come to me the day before, the day of their big performances, because they want that to be on top. They want their A game when they do it. Okay, so there's so many other things that we could go over and talk about with respect to music. My kids are singers. My daughter plays the flute. In fact, she plays a lot of different flutes. And that my other daughter sings opera and my two boys, they were always, all four of them were always National Honor Choir. And my sweetheart sings and she plays piano. She's got a beautiful piano in our home, and it is heaven when they sing and when Melissa plays. I believe angels come to our house to listen. I know after this life, I'll show up to hear my kids and my grandkids sing and that. But we do things for our kids and our grandkids to help their vocal quality to be on top, to be first rate. Any questions you have, please let us know. We would love to answer them.